Hello there, computer science folks. ICS 2O, ICS 3U, ICS 4C, 3C, whatever computer science course you're taking, you're going to be taking this note at some point. It's one of those things that just overlaps with all of our courses. And so you'll take this short note, even though you might have done it before. Um, what this says, almost every computer system has the following basic setup. And uh, the IPO setup. And we talk about computer systems as far as uh, the computers themselves, the hardware and software, which is what section we're in right now. But we've also talked about IPO, depending on what course you're taking, as a way to solve computer programming problems where we break our programs into input, processing, and output as well. So it's not just hardware that we're talking about. It's a whole way to think about computing, input, processing, out and output. And I'm in Smart Notebook here. You'll need to draw some rectangles, so Smart Notebook is good for that. And I'm going to draw the three pieces to the system here using my rectangle tool. There, a little bigger one in the middle. I kind of goofed that up here. Just let me delete that piece off. I want this to be a good note. And then one on the other way over here. And then it's kind of like the stuff, the program, the system, the information flows this way, right? And notice that I just use my arrow tool, and it goes this way from input. I'm going to use my text tool and write in there input. And this middle piece is the processing. Processing, of course, is where the stuff actually gets done, where the work gets done, whether it's the work in the program or the work in the computer, that's processing. And then output is kind of the results. And we'll talk about in this chapter input devices and output devices and that sort of thing. But generally, this is what we talk about when IPO. This is the basic stuff. But I am going to add a little detail, and depending on what course you're taking, you will be going into a lot of detail, um, or a little bit of detail. But here's I just copied and pasted. I just Control C and then Control V to get it on the next page here, just so I'm going to add some detail. I'm going to write a sentence down there too. So adding a little detail to the magic box. It's not magic, of course, it's a computer. Magic box in the middle. We kind of think of the processing as that black thing that the monitor sits on, right? Or it's in a laptop, it's underneath the keyboard. That's kind of like where the processing happens. And I'm going to add some detail to this. Okay, so this I'm gonna put this up here just so I have more room, and I'm gonna add another little box in here, and then another little box here. It's almost like there's going to be three boxes and a bunch of different words. Oops, I didn't want that to be an arrow this time. I want that to be a normal arrow, so I'm going to change that to not have an arrow end on it. And so this thing in the middle, the insides, is called the CPU, or the central processing unit. And probably most of you knew that. Central processing unit. Remember, if I'm going too fast and you can't get yours to look like mine, you can always just pause, right? And if I'm going too slow, I suppose you could speed me up, but you might miss something if you do that. So the top part, there's actually, we think of three pieces in the CPU. There's two main ones that I want to talk about, and you're going to talk about these in some detail. If you're in one course or not much, you'll just see this video and that's about it. So there's one called the ALU. ALU is the arithmetic logic unit. It's part of the central processing unit. And what that's responsible for, well, you're going to have to investigate that in some courses. But if you if it ends here, just that you have to know that the ALU, the arithmetic logic unit, is part of the CPU, then it ends there. Another part is the control unit, and what it does, you'll probably get a chance to research or not. The other part of the CPU that works in time and the same uh, time as the ALU and the control unit is memory. And we think of the what you might be used to hearing about memory. I'm going to make that smaller so it'll fit in. Is RAM. This is like the RAM, random access memory, and random access memory is how basically how many commands or how big of commands we can run at this at one time. And more memory means more programs you can run at the same time or bigger files you can handle, which also affects the speed. Um, Also part of this, and it's often, in these sorts of things, these textbooks, you'll see input, processing, output, and there might be a fourth that runs in sort of conjunction with the the processing part. Sometimes we think of it as part of the processing, or sometimes we can even think of it as storage, as output or input rather, is storage. And storage, something like the hard drive or a CD-ROM or a USB stick, we can think of them as input and output devices, but a lot of models, like this one, is going to have it as kind of a fourth thing in our IPO diagram called storage. All right, that's it for the IPO note, and now you're off doing whatever exercises come next, depending on whatever course you're in. Remember to save your note.